Francisco Goya was not born to be a prophet of darkness. He began as a court painter, a man of charm and ambition who mastered the art of pleasing the powerful. His early career was filled with colour, light, and celebration. He painted tapestries for royal palaces, portraits for nobles, and scenes that made Spain look elegant and secure. But Goya lived in turbulent times. Spain was crumbling under weak monarchs, foreign invasion, and religious control. He himself suffered a mysterious illness that left him permanently deaf. As the world around him fell apart and his body betrayed him, his vision grew darker and darker. His art began to tell a different story, not one of beauty and glory, but one of decay, terror, and madness. This journey, this descent, can be traced through 3 extraordinary paintings. At first, Goya still paints the glitter of power, but with a corrosive edge. Then, he moves into the brutal reality of war, tearing away every illusion of honour. Finally, he ends in a world of monsters, painting nightmares on the walls of his home, as if haunted by visions he could not silence. Together, these works reveal Goya not just as a painter, but as a witness to the deepest truths of human nature. The first step of this descent is Charles IV of Spain and his family, completed in 1800. On the surface, it is a traditional royal portrait, the kind every monarch expected. The family is gathered in their finery, wrapped in silks and glittering jewels. The Queen, Maria Luisa, stands at the centre, her hand placed confidently on her son. The King, Charles IV, stands slightly off to the side, dressed in gold embroidery and ribbons. Their children and relatives are arranged around them, each with their own posture, their own role. And in the background, almost hidden in shadow, Goya paints himself at his easel. At first glance, it looks like a simple display of dynastic power. But if you look longer, the illusion begins to crack. Charles, the king, appears dull and passive, his expression lifeless, his body stiff. He looks less like a ruler and more like a man overwhelmed by his costume. Maria Luisa, the queen, dominates the canvas with her stern face and commanding pose, but instead of radiating beauty, she seems harsh and severe. The children look awkward, uneasy, even lost. Every wrinkle, every blemish is painted with merciless clarity. Goya does not flatter, he exposes. What should have been a portrait of majesty becomes an unmasking. The royal family is revealed as ordinary, flawed, even foolish. Some viewers have compared it to Diego Velázquez's masterpiece Las Meninas, which also places the painter within the scene. But while Velázquez celebrated his monarchs with subtle elegance, Goya holds up a mirror, cold and unforgiving. This is power as illusion. Behind the glitter, there is decay. This portrait marks the first turn in Goya's descent, the court painter who dares to show the cracks in the throne. The second step is far darker. In 1808, Napoleon's army invaded Spain, installing his brother Joseph on the Spanish throne. The invasion sparked an uprising in Madrid, and on May 2nd, Spanish rebels attacked the French soldiers. The next day, the occupiers retaliated with brutal executions. Goya, living in Madrid, saw the horror unfold. 6 years later, he painted the 3rd of May 1808, a canvas that would forever change how war was depicted. The painting shows the moment of execution. On the right side, a line of French soldiers raise their rifles, anonymous and faceless, turned away from us. They are not individuals, but a machine of violence. On the left, the victims, peasants dragged from the city, forced to kneel, waiting for death. At the centre stands a man in a bright white shirt, his arms stretched wide in terror and surrender. His face is filled with horror, his eyes wide, his mouth open. He seems both helpless and defiant. Around him, bodies already lie twisted on the ground, blood pooling in the dirt. Behind him, more prisoners wait for their turn, their faces shadowed but their fear unmistakable. What makes this painting revolutionary is its raw honesty. Before Goya, war was often painted as heroic, filled with gallant soldiers and noble sacrifice. Here, there is no glory, only slaughter. The soldiers have no faces, no humanity. The victims are desperate, terrified, ordinary, The light that falls on the central figure does not redeem him, it simply makes his death more vivid, more inescapable. Goya gives us war without meaning, war without mercy. It is not a history lesson, it is a scream, and it pulls us further into the abyss of his vision. The third step takes us beyond history, beyond politics, into the darkest corners of the human mind. By the 1820s, Goya was old, deaf, and exhausted. Spain was unstable, ruled once again by a corrupt monarchy and the suffocating power of the church. Goya withdrew from public life, retreating into his house outside Madrid. On the walls of that house, directly on the plaster, he painted a series of terrifying works that have come to be called the Black Paintings. These were never commissioned, never meant for public display. They were private visions painted for himself and perhaps for no one else. The most famous of them is Saturn Devouring His Son. The painting shows the Titan Saturn, seized by madness and fear. According to myth, Saturn knew that one day his children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown his own father. To prevent this fate, he devoured each child as soon as they were born. Goya paints Saturn as a figure of horror. His eyes are wide and bulging, glowing with madness. His hair is wild, his body bent and twisted. His hands clutch the body of his child, half eaten, the flesh torn, the head already gone. His mouth gapes open in an expression of frenzy, of hunger, of despair. There is no background, no setting, only darkness. The painting is raw, primal, almost unbearable to look at. But it is more than myth. It is a vision of humanity itself. Saturn is not just a god, he is us, driven by fear, consumed by violence, destroying the very things we create. Goya, in his isolation, painted not just a story from the past, but a truth that echoes through every age. Civilization hides it, but the monster is always there. Together, these three works trace Goya's descent, from the portrait of the royal family, where beauty conceals corruption, to the execution in Madrid, where war strips humanity bare, to Saturn in darkness, where myth reveals our most terrifying instincts. Goya's life, his illness, his country's turmoil all pushed him down this path. But what makes his art so powerful is not just his personal descent, it is that he shows us our own. Goya began as a painter of celebration. He ended as a painter of nightmares. His descent was not a fall into despair, but a revelation. By peeling back the layers of beauty, of order, of myth, he showed us what lies beneath. It is not comfortable, it is not reassuring, but it is real, and in that truth lies the enduring power of his art. Francisco Goya's descent is the story of a man, a nation, and humanity itself. From glittering courts to blood-soaked fields, from myths to monsters, he painted what others would not dare. He gave us a mirror we cannot look away from, a reminder that the line between civilization and chaos is thinner than we want to believe. His works are not just paintings, they are warnings, they are visions. They are even now the voice of darkness whispering from history. This is who we are.